that off instantly.
Welcome
that is
back
fantastic.
to another fantastic day.
Wow.
We're all three back. I think what threw you off is because we're sitting opposite.
Yeah, it could
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, hi, hello, welcome back. All three of us here, so it's absolute chaos.
Another squirrely edition.
And it's going to be fine. I feel like everyone at this point is. But today, we have another kind of trending with what we've been talking about. Some kind of hormone health and stuff like that. And today's topic was actually brought up by a post that Nelson, you saw. I don't know if it's like Instagram or TikTok, Facebook, some social
Facebook,
media. Yeah.
So it was regarding women who deal with postpartum, and essentially what this post was about said that postpartum depression does not exist. And whereas I might not be a mother myself, but we have two on this podcast who are mothers and who probably did experience postpartum depression. So we're going to talk about that because it is a very real thing. And I think it needs to be brought to attention because a lot of people are scared about talking about their experiences with postpartum depression. And I think coming from you guys who have probably
In some regard, yeah.
Yeah, dealt with some sort of depression either during your pregnancy and after your pregnancy or even before. You know, you get anxiety if you are planning a pregnancy, you know. And
well,
I think people wanna talk about
physiologically, like, from a physiological standpoint, I mean, think about it if you're not pregnant. What happens when you get your cycle every month? Hormones shift, you feel different, your mood, the way you act, the way you feel, fluid shifting, all that. And then when you get pregnant, you know,
like
those of
tenfold.
us, right, like you get kind of that whoosh of hormones. And that's why, you know, women, it's very common for women to have these emotional highs and lows when they're first pregnant because their body is literally adjusting to growing a new life. And then things kind of taper out after that first trimester. Well, then now at delivery, you just delivered and now your hormones they go from like being sky high to just like plummeting. And then
You're not
couple
sleeping, you're stressed.
but then a
combined with
couple
everything
days
else.
later, your breast milk comes in and now your hormones go back up. So like literally in a course of like 4 to 5 days, you've gone from high, delivery, low, and now high. And then you're right, Sadie, like you add in, you know, now you're not sleeping. Now there's, you know, stress about this new baby and not stress like in a bad way, but it's stressful.
Yeah.
Maybe you have other kids. Maybe, you know, you don't have support at home or maybe you do. But you add everything else in, and
So
of
stressful
course.
in general. Like,
So
yeah.
I think just because people haven't experienced doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
right.
And working in obstetrics for years, it's real. I promise you, it's real.
Even coming from me who's not a mother, postpartum depression is a real thing. And I want to start off with like day one. So the first thing I want to ask you guys, did you guys plan your pregnancy? Like, were you gearing up for it or was it a whoops?
Well, we both have two, so let's both of us like
two
talk
daughters
through
of all things.
the first one. So you talk about your first one, then I'll
Yeah.
talk about my first one, and then we can get into like
first
the
compared to
second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's so different too.
Yeah. So our first one, we just off the bat, like we planned both of ours. Like we were in a place in our marriage, like I think you're ready. We were definitely planned. I was on birth control for like, I don't even remember, at least 10 years when we had started like to plan. So honestly, like I was anticipating not getting pregnant right away just because you always hear like, you know, if you've been on birth control, like, and I took oral, and mine was like the super like low, you know, more for like the off-brand acne and all that stuff.
Remember
pill
non-labeled uses?
Yeah, non-label, pill.
Okay.
Or off-label use.
Yeah, off-label. And anyway, so I stopped taking it, and then literally the same month that I stopped, I actually got pregnant. So it was kind of a surprise for us, but it was like a planned surprise. We just weren't anticipating it happening as fast as it did. And I had just come off like a fight, so I just come off of like heavy weight cuts, heavy training, all that stuff. So kind of all the things that you think would kind of, I don't want to say prevent, but like make it take a little bit longer. So yeah, we were anticipating like, okay, like, you know, maybe within the next like 3 to 6 months type of thing. And it was like boom, right away for us.
Thank you,
Fertile
ma'am.
Myrtle.
I was just gonna say
yeah.
that.
So
yeah.
we're very very lucky. I always like to preface that because I do have a lot of friends and people I know that definitely have struggled and are still struggling with getting pregnant, staying pregnant, stuff like that. So I try to not, like, I don't know, gloat about that. But yeah, my husband and I are very good at making babies very quickly. But I do have very, very rough pregnancies throughout. So it's like kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, you get pregnant super easy, but it is not a great time for me during. But
because some people have really good pregnancies, like nothing changes.
Yeah,
They're
no,
wearing
that was not
6-inch
me.
heels and they're doing just fine.
yeah, no, definitely not me. But yeah, so as far as that, like I said, like
So
Plan.
what was tough about your pregnancy?
I was
Like-
super sick. So I mean, just both mine in general. Like I was very very sick during. I had really really bad migraines. I had a lot of fluid retention. With my first, I gained 80 pounds. Which is like a lot. So, and she also came out. She was like almost 10 pounds and like almost 23 inches. So she was just a big kid in general, but not 80 pounds.
Right.
So like I
Well-
said, I had a lot of fluid retention, stuff like that. Had like a lot of migraines. I was super like smell nauseous. Like I know like kind of like everyone. Smells for me like I'm super sensitive anyway. So it was like extra and like way worse. So yeah, very very nauseous like the whole time. And just because I gained so much weight, I was so uncomfortable and I was just in pain. Like the whole time, like everything hurt. And I mean, my first one, like I didn't know like I should probably be wearing a belly band. Like that made a big difference. And I was able to work out a little bit, but not as much. So I just kind of struggled with like a lot of body image stuff. So that kind of sucked on top of it.
I was just gonna ask you, like, what did you feel the entire time you were pregnant? Like, did you have a lot of anxiety about your image and all that? Because obviously,
yeah.
being an athlete,
Yeah.
you know, women, we're just naturally. How do I want to put this?
Very self-conscious in general.
Yes, there you go. Self-conscious about your
Yeah.
body, you know, and we pick ourselves apart.
Yeah, I would say yeah. Like I was anxious about what was going to happen after, just because I knew I'd gained so much weight and I was having such a large kid. So like I said, just being able to come back and be like athletic and still, because I knew afterwards I wanted to get more to the bodybuilding. Because before that I wasn't. I was doing more like the Thai fighting stuff like that. I'm just more like your basic athlete. And then with my job too, like it's a very physically demanding job. Like I was worried about not being able to fit back in my uniform, not being able to like function at work, and like being able to like handle the task I needed to. So yeah, kind of that. Like I said, I've always had a lot of like body image stuff, so it was really, really hard for me, especially postpartum, because like I said, I was very very large, and then it was just I just felt like a melted whale afterwards, you know. And I am very lucky. Like my husband is very very supportive. Like he was up with me in the middle of the night. Like even if he wasn't doing stuff, if I was up, like he was up with me, so that kind of helped and made it a little nicer. But at the same time, then like neither one of us were sleeping, so.
Right.
Well, and people don't realize, like, after you have a baby, you still look pregnant. Even if you are a
Yes.
tiny person, and you still are going to have just this, because your uterus, yeah, it shrinks, but, like, when you're getting your uterus checked after you deliver, for those of you who haven't had babies, so they will check your uterus after you deliver, and what they're checking for is that it stay nice and firm so that your blood vessels are all clamped
Yeah.
back up pretty much so you don't bleed. And they're usually able to feel the uterus about your belly button. And so, you know, if your uterus is still, protruding up to the level of your belly button, you're still going to look probably 4 or 5 months pregnant.
Oh, I
And
definitely
then-
did. Yeah.
yeah,
And I
and-
had C-section too for both
Right.
of mine, so I had like just that extra like uncomfortableist.
And fluid, and,
Yeah.
Extra
takes a
fat.
couple days for
Your
those
skin
to...
is stretched, you know, it's just like bodybuilding. You're not gonna bounce into stage day from your bulk. You know,
Yeah.
it
Right.
takes time to drop that weight and tighten your skin back up.
I struggled with that a lot too, just being okay with taking time to be able to come back and to not try and like rush it and get back into things right away. I did better with my second, but still not awesome as far as just like allowing myself time, being like the gym was always going to be there, like I don't have to rush back into my workouts, like I can enjoy spending time with them while they're little, like little, you know, and not having to kill myself trying to go to the gym when I should be napping.
Right.
That was I think for me the hardest part, and just like I said, like knowing it will get better, like allow yourself some grace.
So how is it different from your second baby then? Like where was your starting point compared to your first baby? And then what did you notice that was like better, worse?
I think the biggest
delivery.
The biggest change between my first and the second was I was with my coach prior, during, and after my second, whereas I was not with my coach prior and during with my first. So I did not have as much weight gain with my second. I had a little bit more accountability, and I was just at a better starting point too, because I had, and again, same thing with the second. Like we were not anticipating getting pregnant super fast. Like I came off of a show, literally got my period like 1 or 2 months later, and then I was like, boom, you're pregnant. And even my coach was like, that should not happen. Like, what are we doing? Which I mean, it was good. It just kind of, like I said, like, you know, my hormones were in the right spot. And again, like, we are very good at making babies very quick, which is also why my husband's snipped right now.
So quick story on Sadie's second child. So I don't know if I've told you this.
Oh, yeah.
But that year, Sadie and I really became friends, and we started training together. And we trained together one morning at any time. And she walks in, just absolutely perfectly fine.
Inside, not okay.
Oh, yeah. So I looked at her, I'm like, are you pregnant?
We're so just like slower, like just not lifting very heavy, like.
No, I asked you this before we started. Because I was
Oh,
sitting.
yeah, because we were sitting like the freeway, yeah.
You had just walked in.
Yeah.
Ghost white face. And she said, we literally just found this out last night.
Yeah.
You can read it. You must have had an aura about you
Something.
that just said,
It's that witchy Wiccan side of me. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, this is me. I know when people are pregnant now, I guess.
Yeah. Yes. But again, not anticipating it to happen that fast, and then it did.
Because I was surprised too. I'm like, ain't no way this bitch is pregnant right now.
Yeah, like I said, like 2 or 3 months off my first show, and
But see, on a positive note, I think that goes to show, because your body is so smart, and your body, the reason women lose their cycle, or, you know, especially during prep, because the body recognizes that, hey, we are not in a good place to make another human.
Yeah, you're literally starving. Like,
so that's why your cycle shuts down.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a good indicator to you that even though you may have felt miserable or all the things during your prep, that you were doing things in a way that your body wasn't struggling, and that if you were to get pregnant, which you did, your body is still in a position to do so. Because otherwise you wouldn't get pregnant. I mean, that's your body's just defense coping. So that's good. I mean, it tells you that your preps were maybe miserable, but still
as
actually
healthy as they
healthy.
could have
right,
been. Yeah.
Right.
I was gonna say, if you're not miserable, you're not pregnant. Right?
Yeah. But I've got, I mean, kind of like sidebar, I've maintained my cycle pretty deep into most of my preps, as well as gotten them back relatively quick also. So which is good. Like, I mean, I'm taking care of like my hormones, like I'm in a good place with that. But yeah, so again, circling back to second versus first, planned, but not planned as quickly as it happened. And I would say kind of the same thing. I kind of knew a little bit what to expect with the second one, which was helpful. But again, like super sick the whole time. I actually worked out even less with my second than my first, just because I was so exhausted. Like I had constant migraines. I couldn't eat a lot. Like I had really, really bad like meat aversion during the second one. Like
I remember you saying that.
Like the thought, smell, look of meat, it was awful. Like
the days you came into the gym, you looked rough.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is why I don't want children. This is a prime example.
But I mean, everyone does not get nearly as sick as I did and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But,
I mean, it's a true condition when you are to the point, you know, and some women end up needing fluids, or it's pretty common for, you know, pregnant women anyway to have kind of like an as needed prescription for antiemetics or anti-nausea medication.
Yeah.
But I mean, some women, they can't keep anything down.
No.
And then they end up getting dehydrated and they're not gaining appropriately.
Which means they're not feeding the baby.
Right. Because normal weight gain, just like across the board, is 25 to 35 pounds. Now, if you are overweight or obese, they want you less than 25. And actually, if you're considered or obese, they want you about 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And that is pretty much just enough weight to support the
Baby
baby's
and-
weight, the placenta,
Cool.
the
So
amniotic
if I
fluid.
were to get pregnant right now, I'm actually considered obese, so I
Well-
can't gain much weight.
I have always said this. I think we've talked about it before. There has got to be a better BMI indicator besides just your height and your weight.
Yeah.
There's got to be a better,
It's
take your
inaccurate,
waist circumference.
yes.
There's got to be a better formula because those of us who have high lean tissue, muscle mass, you could take. I mean, I always think of Chris, Nelson's husband. You could take him and put him on a scale, and
He's morbidly obese.
He's morbidly obese. I'm telling you, he is not.
The man is shredded.
Is
Year
shredded
round.
and jacked. So anyway, that was a side note. But anyway, I guess what I was saying is, weight gain's normal.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, you're carrying a human.
yeah, and even
Yeah.
your blood volume goes up because you have to have extra blood volume circulating to.
And a lot of women go through Chris's sister has like low blood pressure, blood sugar. I can't remember which one. Every time when she gets pregnant, and like she has to go to the hospital a lot.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I had that bad. It was just general, like, felt like trash. I had really, really bad Braxton Hicks. The lovely, like, lightning crotch, which is just
What is
awful.
Braxton Hicks?
Braxton Hicks are like false contractions,
Oh, okay.
basically.
Your body's
See, I'm a
priming itself.
newbie
Priming and
here, so
prepping, yeah.
teach me.
Yeah. I had those pretty consistent with both girls. I had like the lightning crotch, which is just like the random shooting pains.
Zingers.
Oh,
So-
see, I have those when I have to bark, so I know what those are.
So like during the
Yep.
end of your pregnancy, as the baby starts to like migrate down deeper into the pelvis, there's nerve endings and there's all sorts of stuff, and the space is now smaller. So you'll be walking or sitting or whatever, and then baby's head might hit a certain nerve.
It just
and
drops you.
It does. It's like a zinger.
Ugh.
And that seriously is really painful, and it can come out of like nowhere where you're
Yeah.
just doing a normal activity. And then like the round ligament pain.
I was just gonna bring that up next. So I actually have like, because you qualified as like a ligament disease or whatever. So my ligaments are like super, super stretchy, like way more than they should be, which is why I'm double jointed. I tear stuff all the time. Like, it's fine. So I had really, really bad like round ligament pain to the point like if I was not wearing a tight belly band, I was in excruciating pain just walking. Like, I literally could not, like, walking across my house like physically hurt. So I pretty much had a belly band on
And what is
the
that?
whole time. So I don't want to say like a waist trainer, but it's like kind of like
Does it, like,
a
lift
weight
your belly up?
Yeah, so think like
Okay.
a weight belt, but it's more down.
Under.
So it like kind of cradles the bottom
See,
of
I've
like a
seen
little
some videos
Prego
of
belly.
like husbands going
Yeah.
to their wives like
And
behind
pulling
them and
and-
pulling their belly
Yes.
up.
Yeah.
And really okay. So okay.
Yeah, so it just
See,
kinda-
I'm getting there.
It just
I'm
helps
getting there.
relieve that like, I don't know, pulling pain. But yeah, I had that. I had round ligament pain.
The gravity.
Awful.
And
Yeah.
round ligament pain, it's for you, Nelson, that doesn't really understand.
Yeah.
A lot of
see,
times as your uterus starts growing, things have to shift. So like your hips shift differently, your hips start opening differently. Obviously your uterus is growing, so things are stretching, and so just that sensation just is painful.
Oh,
at
you call that a
times.
sensation?
Sensation.
Good. That sounds very sensational. That sounds like I want to make a baby right now. Oh. See, it doesn't sound sensational to me.
So my pregnancies were way different than Sadie.
So let's talk about your first one. So like
Okay.
the day of, like what
Well,
what did you feel and
So my first pregnancy was not planned. I was pregnant at 18. So
you were young.
Shortly out of
My
high
mom
school.
was. Yeah. She had me at 19, so.
I was on birth control, but
Yeah, but back
it's-
then birth control wasn't very good because I was a pill baby as well.
it was And if I'm being honest, I know that I took it every day, but I do think there was probably variations in the time. Like
Okay.
knowing what I know now, I can probably say with confidence that I should have been more diligent about same time,
Okay,
anyway.
so you weren't consistent with the time you were
Probably
taking your
not.
pills. So like noon every day.
Yes.
You were at like noon one day, 6 o'clock at night the next
Exactly.
day.
Yep. And I
Okay.
think my cycles, I mean, this is plus 20 years ago, but, being an 18-year-old, I'm just going to guess that I probably wasn't super on top of that stuff. So anyway,
I had to stop taking pills because I couldn't remember to take them at the same time every day.
and that's why I'm really hesitant when younger females are taking birth control pills. That makes me nervous. But my pregnancy, unlike Sadie's, sorry, she's going to be mad. I absolutely loved being pregnant. I felt amazing. So with my first one, I was never sick. I had, body image issues, since elementary school. But I'm telling you, for the first time ever, when I was pregnant with my first one, I felt such a sense of like, it's like I gave myself permission to just work out if I wanted to, or eat what I wanted to because that's what I wanted to. And so it was such a time of peace. Plus, on top of that, I felt good. I didn't gain a ton of weight. I was young, I was lean. And so I was one of those that from the back, you couldn't tell was pregnant until you turn. And then it was like, dear God, she's...
That was
You had the
not me.
basketball belly.
Right. Now, my delivery was pretty rough. I won't go into all the details, but she did have a broken humerus, so upper arm. She was 8'4", but for me that was big. She had head dystocia, which means as she was delivering, the head got stuck. They have to try to deliver the shoulders. Well, then in the process, one was
Broken,
fractured,
yeah.
and blood transfusions, pretty significant trauma down below. So
it's kind of like in like a lamb out like a lion type of situation.
Yeah. But, in postpartum, really nothing significant except, the stuff that we were dealing with her with the arm. But with that did come emotions, and, we can talk emotions here in a minute. With the second one, she was planned for the most part. Like, kind of like what Sadie was saying, like, maybe not like right away, but kind of open to the idea of the hardest part, again, I was never sick with my second one. I felt great. The hardest challenge was I was working nights at the time, like 12-hour night shift. That was probably the hardest transition, was just, I was just always tired. And
So with your first one, were you working nights with your first one?
No, I was in nursing school.
Okay, so you just did your school and you obviously slept overnight. So then the transition for your second one, you worked overnight and probably tried to attempt to sleep during the day.
And I think my biggest problem too is not being able to drink the caffeine then. I relied on that a lot to keep me up at night. So you take that out.
That's probably why my second one is absolutely feral. Because
She really is, though. You're in for a rude awakening.
Oh no, we're awake, and it's not great.
See, I just learned that terrible twos are no longer a thing. It's the fucked up fours.
Oh yeah, dude, threes and fours, because it's like 2-year-olds but with life experience.
Yeah.
But no, I did not give up caffeine with my second one. I scaled back, obviously. But
Did
I
you
was
just
still
do black coffee or something?
I had coffee, so I wasn't doing the energy drinks. I wasn't doing pre-workout. But I did still have coffee. But like you, I was working nights for the first 2/3 until I was no longer road fit, basically. Where I was like, it's not safe for me to be out here for myself and literally anyone else type of thing. And then I transitioned into more of a light duty position. But even then, I stayed having caffeine throughout.
See, and you can have there's studies that say up to 200 milligrams is probably relatively fine.
It's probably right about where I was at.
But if you're used to having more than that, which I was, then that's tough. And
Yeah.
so then you have the headaches. You can't stay up. I had horrible issues. If I had one complaint about my second one, it was horrible leg cramps. The type that wake you up. So here I'm trying to sleep during the day, and then I'd have these leg cramps that would throw me on the floor. I'd stand up, and I can remember one time my brother was staying with us, and I was howling, or he must have heard something going on, And he came in the bedroom, and here I'm on the floor. Like, I can remember it so vividly, and I can remember him freaking out, like saying,
Yeah.
you know, what's going on? What's going on? I'm like, my legs. And it
My
doesn't
legs.
sound like it'd be that big of a deal, but the pain, it was
And if you've ever had a bad cramp,
horrible,
like you,
and it just
yeah.
wouldn't let up.
Charlie horses in the middle of the night
Yes.
that wake you up.
Yes, and then you start going into this panic of like, when's it going to let up?
Yeah.
And so that was happening all the time. And I tried magnesium, calcium, potassium,
Sodium,
obviously.
all that stuff.
You know, just making sure I was well hydrated, and I knew it wasn't caffeine related. So it was really tough. Like I swear I tried everything: heat, massage, walking before I went to bed, trying to like avoid long periods of time
Yeah.
without moving. All
Even
the things.
stretching didn't help?
Stretching,
Really?
no, nothing.
Jeez.
My teeth, I feel like my teeth hurt during too. Did you feel like you had teeth pain at all?
No.
And I brush
can't
my
say
teeth and take care of my teeth too, so it wasn't like I'm like
But if someone
scummy,
is,
right?
that is something with pregnancy though. Like if you're not getting the nutrients, the baby
Yeah.
will find the way to get the nutrients.
Yeah,
So
it takes it
from your bones,
you.
from your
Yeah.
teeth. You know, sometimes patients or women will have like receded gums because they're just oral health declines because the baby is literally taking what it needs from the body. So
Yeah, like little wonderful, loving little leeches
yeah, that's a great way to put it.
in the most
Okay.
loving way possible.
Yes.
I don't know if I would put it in the loving
Okay,
way.
well let's
I'm
talk
over
it.
here
Let's
with like
talk about the breast. So what happened to your breast when you got pregnant?
One, they're just sad now, which is just
I know, but
depressing.
let's like
But
when you
during-
were pregnant.
So I would say during, especially with my first compared to my second, and I think a lot of it was with my first is because I gained so much weight. Whereas with my second, I think I gained maybe between like 40 and 50. So it was not, but again, she was also a big kid. And I was not working out as much, but I was eating a lot better, which made a big difference. I would say with my first, I definitely like had way more like enlargement, but I think a lot of that was just general
Like body fat.
gain. I really think that's what a lot of that was. And then like when I was breastfeeding, like I breastfed longer with my first. I think I did like maybe 16 to 20 weeks, give or take. Because it was not very long after I went back to work that I started to wean myself off, and it was just because it was hard. Like I want to take off like my entire uniform, and that was when I was still with my first. I was still working straight up overnights, so there'd be times where I was the only one out. So it's like I can't really be stuck pumping with half my gear off and then get a call and I'm like trying to throw, which happened. Like we had like 2 or 3 emergent calls come out and I'm like ripping stuff off, trying to throw stuff back on, and it was just absolute. And praying to God you don't spill what little like milk I was able to get. Like it was a whole situation.
I do have a quick question on pumping. Do you have to pump?
So that's a good question. So some women, so when you start breastfeeding, especially if it's your first one, sometimes either the ways your nipples are, like mine, for example, they were pretty flat with my first one. So my first baby, she never did latch on. And I think I was also young. I probably wasn't as patient, but I exclusively pumped for a year, every 4 to 5 hours. I produced a ton though. Like I was like a cow in another lifetime.
See, that's kind of what I'm thinking of. Like cows,
But,
obviously, like
yeah.
they get too full. Like, do women
It
have?
hurts.
Okay,
Yes.
so it does hurt.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
that
if you're
fullness.
if you're really full,
Because
it
if I
does-
were to
does
ever get
hurt.
pregnant, I don't know why, but I am disgusted by the fact of a baby latching onto my nipple.
So
you,
I
you
cannot
don't
get
have
past
to.
that.
Yeah, you don't
So-
have to.
Because
Okay.
with my second one, because over time all of that pumping pulled things out the way they needed to be, she latched on fine. And so with her,
Yeah.
I breastfed exclusively pretty much for that, 6 to 8 weeks when I was off work. And then I went back to pumping. But I would nurse her like in the morning. I would pump to kind of empty myself out. I would pump during the day, when I was at work. Because now I was like on day shifts. And then I would nurse her at night. And I got to the point where I could go all night without pumping.
And it's nice too, like for that, like with work or when you're not with a baby, being able to pump to get that release, or to keep your supply up, or milk and stuff like that. Like,
or having a bottle ready to go. Like,
yeah.
Obviously it is cheaper because you're producing it, you're not paying for it.
Right.
And it's so much healthier. Like,
you've got your antibodies.
I mean, I'm okay with the idea of pumping. I cannot
have.
Like, I don't even allow my husband to even lick my nipples. Like, no.
And the pumps now, so like, 20 years ago, 16 years ago, when my kids were little, they were like these cones, but I would pump everywhere. I would pump in the car. I can remember pumping on my way to class. I would pump.
We can get like the portable ones now that are nice.
Well, now they have.
They got some high-tech ones.
Cordless. They're cordless. They can be Bluetooth.
Game changer, like the hands-free game changer. Like, I'm a person again. You're not saying it like this.
Flipping Bluetooth ones?
Yep.
For what?
I know a teacher.
Why?
I know a teacher that she can literally be lecturing and be pumping at the same time, because they're no longer cones. They're like flat. Think of like a flat bra
like
insert.
Suction to you?
Well, you also have like your bra will keep tension on it, but they have like a section.
So the Bluetooth, does it just turn it on and off? Or?
You can turn it on and off.
Remote,
okay, so
like
I thought it was
your
going to be
phone.
really bougie and be like, this is how much calcium's in breast milk. And
it probably could.
I'm sure there's some, maybe, I don't know.
But yeah, you can Bluetooth it. You can put it on a timer. You could just wear it all.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. Completely hands free. It's quiet.
Well, heck, if I ever have children, I'm gonna be the bougie mom.
Well, I can remember like wee hours of the morning, like having the pump on,
and having to sit there and hold it.
Well, I would like hold it with one arm, and I would like usually read or do something. I can remember the noise like. And the longer you listen to it, especially in the middle of the night,
it's like almost like lulling you back to
or
sleep.
like it was talking. Like sometimes the noise would sound like words, and I'm like,
you're so just delirious and just out of it.
What's going on? Cracked nipples, that is also a true thing. So
Is that like dry nipple?
Yes,
okay. And it can hurt, especially if you're breastfeeding. Like, it can hurt.
I remember you saying that because when I got my
I gave you some of like the nipple
cream.
Yep.
Because when I got
it made a big difference.
I had a cracked nipple one time.
My nipples were dry for some reason. I don't know if that's like a normal thing when you get your.
Maybe fluid shifting and.
Why can't I think of it?
Implants.
Implant. Jeez. Oh my gosh.
So this is kind of gross, but I know that someone can relate to this. I had a cracked nipple one time, and it would bleed, but you can't just stop pumping. Like, you just can't, because you can also get mastitis, which is when you get stagnant milk that gets infected. The best thing, ladies, is keep pumping. You have to keep pumping, massage, use heat, but keep pumping. If it doesn't get better, you run fevers, go see your doctor. You might need an antibiotic. But this was just a cracked nipple. No redness, just the cracked nipple. So it would bleed, and so now you're pumping, and so it is like milking like this drop of blood. And so the milk would legit look like strawberry milk, because and it did get better.
I am never having strawberry milk ever again. Oh my god.
Now, I did not feed that side. You could. It would have not hurt the baby. I could have fed that to her and it would have been fine. It grossed me out a bit, so I discarded it. But you could.
Yeah.
It might upset their stomach a little bit. Probably not, because we're talking like literally a couple drops. Like, it was so slow, but just enough to turn the milk
just that
a
it had
color.
Something, yeah. See, like I was a super low producer with both my
so
kids.
Sad. That makes me sad.
And it was that for me. Like, I would say postpartum, that was one of the biggest mind like fucks for me. And it was like, one, like, I'm healthy. I'm doing everything right.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
eating
trying.
like I'm trying. Like, I'm on a schedule. I'm pumping. She's eating. She's latching.
And you're being
fine.
patient. Like some
yes,
women
like,
are just like, I'm giving up.
No, like, I was literally like, all the things I was doing what I was supposed to. I was checking off the box. I was eating all the things. I tried like the extra like lactation cookies. Like, I tried like different like, nutrition,
Fluid. I imagine.
like everything. And I just, for whatever reason, I think some of it may have been just stress and work and stuff, but even when I wasn't at work, like, I was still just a very, very low producer. Like, just in general, like I said, like, I was super hard, because I'm like, wow, like, I can't even do the one thing that my body's meant, like, meant and designed to do, and I'm like, my body just doesn't do it, and that's like.
Did you get
sucks.
the letdown? Because some women,
yes,
they won't
like, you
actually
could feel it. Yep.
They won't get that tingly letdown.
I had everything. I just wouldn't. Okay,
just
pause.
the amount.
Nelson's making funny faces at us. So when you're like, you feel like, so when you're breastfeeding or like pumping or whatever, you will feel like full, like is the
All the
best way
time.
to, you can feel like a fullness, but then when
Like
it's
a really
ready,
good chest pump.
Kind of.
Okay,
But
I
like
kinda
your
like that.
milk doesn't run out. Like
no,
you need
can,
this.
it will sometimes if you don't get if you don't get to it.
So
Like,
it's full.
Yeah.
But like you don't really leak for the most part. When your milk first comes in, those first couple weeks you do. But once you get in a good like jive of things and routine, you can walk around with like pretty full, even uncomfortable at times. But for the most part, you won't leak until you get the letdown.
and it's like it literally feels like a tingly like whoosh
And
sensation.
And then it releases, and now the milk just
Now you're gonna start having.
So
yeah.
would that be kind of like getting breast implants? You know how they sit up higher, it's uncomfortable, super tight, even when you're walking,
Yeah.
and then it just like,
when it releases.
yes.
Kind of.
I
Like,
mean, probably
every-
not to the extent of breast milk, but kind of. I mean, I'm talking about the fullness part.
The fullness, yes, I would
Okay.
say that's probably pretty.
Okay.
So with my second, when I had to pump at work, that was challenging sometimes because I think I would get really stressed. So I would chart. I would like save my charting for when I was pumping. So I would like hold and then I would do my charting.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think I would get so stressed about like, I have to get this done. I have to get this done. Like, come on, just let down. I took a this actually really helped me. I took a picture one time of my baby nursing, like
I did like
from
recorded
like
sound, like recorded sound of them. Yeah.
I recorded her nursing, like from my view. So like me looking down, seeing her. I recorded that. So sometimes when I had a hard time like letting down, I would watch that video. I would actually like place it over my breast and look down, and it would help my brain to be like, okay, she's nursing. It would kind of like trick my brain, and it worked almost every time. And then it
it's
would
like
let down.
it's like a weird
Or crying.
Like, yeah, it's like a weird like literally like biological like response like you see in movies like people like joke out like a pregnant woman, she's like she hears a baby crying and she's like, oh, I'm leaking, like that like happens.
Yeah,
but
dude,
it's
try
because-
working in obstetrics as the nurse. And like here I'm taking care of this baby who's crying and now I'm leaking. Or
God dang
someone's
it.
in labor
Yeah.
and just seeing that I'm like, ooh, baby, now I'm leaking.
Yeah, it's just like it's a little like biological just physiological just response, and it's literally meant to help you
So have
let
you ever,
down and
have you ever heard of
yeah.
like oxytocin hormone?
Nope.
Really? So oxytocin, that's a hormone. So it's like considered kind of like the love hormone.
It's like you feel good hormone.
Okay,
The
never
feel-good
mind. Yeah,
hormone.
okay.
So
Yeah,
oxytocin is
feel
also responsible for uterine contraction. So when you are in labor, it's oxytocin going up. When you breastfeed, oxytocin goes up. So think of the love like, oh, baby's nursing. But the importance of breastfeeding after delivery too is because you're breastfeeding, oxytocin goes up. That also helps to contract the uterus to keep the bleeding down. So it all goes together. Like our bodies are so amazing. So that's like a natural way to help you keep from hemorrhaging after you deliver is breastfeeding because of that aspect. But that hormone can be stimulated when things make you feel love and babies cry or you see babies and those oxytocin levels go up and then your letdown of your breasts come.
Well, I must be opposite because when I hear babies cry, I'm like, nope.
It will
It's so
change.
it's so
promise
different. It's
you.
so like other babies, I'm like, you gotta make it stop. But my kid, I'm like, what's wrong? But also sometimes I'm like, you gotta
See,
stop.
that's what they say, and I don't. I think I'm just gonna live with being a crazy cat lady the rest of my life.
It's hard to explain. Like this is gonna sound awful. I am not a huge kid person. Like I like kids. Like obviously, like I hang out.
Oh,
But
I love children.
but like
kids.
but I like my own kids, and I think it's something.
See, but
to do.
that's
It's
what
just
they
like your
always say.
own.
I don't
It's
know
just
if
your own. It's
I don't
weird.
know.
It's hard to
I don't
explain.
know.
No, I get it, but I'm like the opposite. I'm like the ones that when we're walking into a church in Des Moines, I want to go the other way where all the Sunday school kids are going in so that I can see all the
Go hang
children.
out. Yeah.
And then,
well, you were an OB nurse, so and so like
and
that.
I do have a special. I really
Yeah.
love kids.
Yeah.
Like all the children. Nelson's looking at me like you're crazy. I know, son, and I don't think
No.
it's bad when people. I mean, I have people very close to me that it's very obvious they don't really care for children. That's okay. You know, we're also different.
Yeah. But anyway, I would say that was for me. That was one of the hardest things. and like kind of circling by like the postpartum stuff, like I don't think I really had. I don't so much think I had like the postpartum like depression, but I definitely could tell my hormones were all over the place. Like I was way more moody, like I was way more quick to anger. And for me, like that's something I just struggle with in general. Like I'm usually a pretty quick triggered person. And so I do feel like it was like a lot more than I would get frustrated a lot easier. Like I would start like crying for like no reason, like, you know, just start crying and my husband's like doesn't know how to help me. I'm just like, just leave me alone, you know, type of thing. And
so yours was more like hormone.
Yeah, I just had a lot of like up and down all over. I wasn't.
Yeah.
See, I don't feel like I felt like the classic what you think of like the sad
the postpartum blues.
Yes, I don't feel like I really had that.
So
like I said,
never
for me,
felt like resentment to your children or anything?
No.
Because I feel like that's a huge thing with postpartum depression is resentment with their children.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, and if you are feeling that, I think to an extent that can, you know, it's a huge life change. You know, this little person just kind of destroyed your body, you know. I can see how some people could feel that way, or, you know, I can't do XYZ, or I'm tired, and it's like, oh my god, like I don't, just please sleep through the night. Like I'm so tired of getting up and having to feed and do all this other stuff. It's like I just lay down, I just want to go to sleep. For me, like pumping and stuff like that, because like I said, like I was such a low producer, that I would like breastfeed for like a timed amount on each side, and then I'd sit there and then I'd have to pump for a little bit longer just to get a little bit more out, because we went to daycare, you know, like she had to have something. And it's like, man, by the time I was done breastfeeding, done pumping, got everything put together, put away, and then I was like, all of a sudden, I'm like, for like 20 minutes, I gotta literally do it all over again, you know? So I'd have a little bit of frustration with that, but I wouldn't classify it so much as the resentment as I was just exhausted. And I was like, I am so tired of having to do this. Like, I just want to feel like a person again. And for me, breastfeeding and pumping, I don't want to say took that away, because that's not the right word, but I just felt like a milk cow, you know. I was like, I feel like I can't do anything, I can't do what I want, like I can't even go out to the store because I literally don't have time, like because I'm gotta come back and pump or feed or whatever. And I think, like I said, a lot of that just had to do with because I was having to do so much extra because I was such a low producer, so I was trying to get anything,
that makes
everything, you know. I wasn't like a quick 10-minute done, I've got ounces and ounces and ounces. I was like half hour, 45 minutes, and I have like 1 ounce between both sides, like really
and that
low.
makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and so for me, that was one of the driving forces why I didn't breastfeed as long with the second one as I did with the first one, just because I was over it. I was like, I can't, and this, I mean, it sounds bad, but when you're going through it, I was like, I can't do this anymore, you know. Like I can't, you know, especially with you have more than one kid, like it is really, really hard. So like the people that are able to breastfeed for like a year or like 6 months, couple months, whatever, like kudos, because that is so freaking hard, especially when you have more than one kid and you're working and you're taking care of the house and like everything else. Like, man, it's a lot. Like, and me personally, I was not cut out for that, and I have no qualms saying that, you know. But
when I look at both of, so like circling back on the mood with both of my girls, I would say when I can correlate it, it was usually the day I was going home, and so that was also correlated with about the time my milk was coming in. So that's why I'm pretty confident both of my experiences were hormone related. I would just feel really sad and really almost like anxious, especially like at night. And I don't know if it was like the anxiety of the night to come or feeling like that loneliness, because it was just weird. I can just remember feeling just out of sorts. I would usually just call my mom about 10 o'clock for a couple nights in a row, and I came out of it. And so that was the extent of my, like, you know, kind of
baby blues
postpartum
or
baby
whatever.
blues.
Yeah.
From pumping and breastfeeding, it sounds like pumping that frequently, like I did with my first one, would just be work. For me, it was actually really nice because I could do it, I could get it done. That milk, once you pumped it, I mean, it was good to sit out for about 3 hours. So now you have this like entire bottle of milk. And if I would, I I'm not rubbing this in. I promise. I would
like you. Asshole.
no, seriously. I would get like solid 8 ounces aside, and so
That's like my day's
I
amount.
know. So like one bottle I would sit on the counter, and that could stay out for 3 hours before going back in the fridge. The other I would put right in the fridge, and I had this rotating system because after like 3 days, I would freeze what
Either
was
perhaps you
at
freeze
the
it,
front.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for me, that was great because I could leave a bottle with anyone, and I could bring the bottle myself, and we could go do our thing. I was very blessed to have that. But pumping, it was time consuming, but my body got so good at it that I could pump anytime.
Yeah.
So is that normal to not
So
pump a whole lot?
It is pretty common. Like I don't have numbers, but I would say majority of the patients that I've worked with or dealt with, whether in the clinic or in the OB setting, or just in like, girlfriends talking, I would say majority of why people stop early, like not early is there's not a right early for anybody. When you want to stop is when you want to stop. But when I say early, I mean like earlier than what your goal was.
Yeah.
And I would say majority of these women who have to stop prior to their goal is due to just decreased amounts. And sometimes it's just, there's no good answer despite all the things. There used to be like different remedies, like, oh, drink a beer before you pump, or, which I think was just to relax you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I wasn't.
I think there's medications. I don't know the right, so don't quote me, but I think there's actually like some medications now. I want to say maybe Reglan can be used to help with like the letdown in amount. Don't quote me on that. Now I'm curious because I want to look it up after. I'm pretty sure that's one of the medications now that they can try. But
like
really,
I said, I was frustrated because like it's like I know she's latching. Like I was good. Like everything I need to be doing, like I was good. And I got frustrated because I would tell people, oh, like you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right, or like I don't understand why you're having issues. Like I never had that issues. So also never had that issues. Like it's because of your job or because you're working out or all this other stuff. And it's
let's
it's like
clear.
You're not the one that's sitting up in the middle of the night with me, like crying because I'm not producing anything. Like I can't even feed my own kid. Like that is such like a crappy feeling. And then to have people tell you, oh, it's your fault because you're doing something wrong, and it's like you have no idea.
People
like,
actually told you that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I would have backhanded them. Okay.
The nice thing too about
it's frustrating.
They didn't have these back when I was breastfeeding, but now there's like breastfeeding banks that you can donate to. So like someone like me who overproduced, then someone like you who still wanted breast milk, you could actually get some. And they use donated breast milk for like NICUs and I looked into it during the time, but at that time the monitoring and the testing was so and it still is very
it's like a lot.
Yeah, I can't think of the word I wanted to say, but like, you have to test it. You have to keep it at a certain temperature for like transportation. There wasn't as many drop-off sites back then. I think now there's a lot more drop-off sites. Yeah. So like, it wasn't so inconvenient for people to do that. But I did give some away to a friend, a trusted friend who trusted me and, kind of shared.
Should have sold it on the like bodybuilder black market.
Right. You totally could do that. Yeah, because I remember a coworker at the time. Her daughter had delivered around the time I did and was having similar issues to you. And she would see me coming out of like where I would pump with like these 2 bottles, and she'd just be like, "Oh my gosh, if only." And
that's like what I do in an entire day.
Yeah. And I can remember like asking her like, if you're comfortable with it, I don't mind. But it sounded like her daughter was already kind of doing that with the friends. So I think at the end of the day, though, the message is, whether you breast or formula feed, it doesn't matter. Right. Yeah. Just feed your baby. And, if we can get off the soapbox of like, this is better and this is better, I think you just have to find what works. Now, one thing I would suggest to moms, like let's say you are going to go the formula route, really try to stick with the formula for an extended period of time. Like we see that quite a bit where baby's a little gassy or fussy and they automatically think it has to do with the formula, so then they switch. And so they don't give it enough time to see if that formula is actually, they just blame it on the formula.
Yeah.
babies are naturally going to cry. It's like part of their neurological development, and
Yeah.
so
It's the only way they have to communicate.
right. And so we try to educate moms on that. Like they would call it period of purple crying. Like their crying will actually increase about 2 months, and that is when they're really going through a neurological change, and they'll just cry for no reason. And so helping parents just figure out that. You may just have to walk away. Like, make sure your baby's safe, make sure they're fed,
just
they're
go take a
changed.
breath.
Go take a breath.
It's okay.
And, they're trying to prevent shaken baby syndrome. But I guess where I was going with that is, like...
Oh, hang on. What is that?
Okay, so unfortunately, shaken baby syndrome, because we're talking about postpartum depression, is when...
If I think I know what it is.
Yes,
If
when the parent or whoever, it doesn't have to be the parent, gets so frustrated by the baby and they shake the baby out of frustration.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
And the brain, it goes front back, and it causes brain trauma, and it can cause
kind of like
death.
a whiplash type
Yes,
thing, like
yes.
when you're in a car, somebody stops
Yeah.
really
Yes.
hard, and
So period of purple
that can
crying
cause death. In a bit, holy
Yeah,
cow,
can
seriously?
cause
Like
death
really bad brain damage.
or
and-
brain
Wow.
damage or like lifelong
It's like a traumatic,
issues.
traumatic
Yeah.
brain injury.
Really?
Yeah. So, your baby is going to have periods of crying where you might just have to take a break.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change the formula right away. I guess that's where I was going, but I guess that was good educational, for, just...
Well, I mean, for me, like I said, I'm not a mom. I don't know any of this stuff,
we're all
so-
human, and there are going to be times where parents are just so frustrated.
Especially when
and
you've
they're
had
sleep
2
deprived.
hours of sleep and everything else, and like you said, like you're tired, you're exhausted, like it's a lot. Like the kid literally won't stop. Like I think that was the biggest piece of advice I got, and that I've given other people too, is like babies are gonna cry, and it's okay that they cry. It's okay. Like you don't have to solve the issue. You don't have to fix it right now. Put the baby in a safe place. Step out for a hot minute. Go find a pillow to scream in, or like whatever.
We've told parents even before,
Yeah.
like even if you have to go outside where you can't hear them, if
Just
you know
stand there
that
and
they're
breathe.
like you've got to take that break.
Well, especially when you've checked all the boxes with your kid.
Right.
Diapers changed. I know the baby's fed. You're doing
They're
all the
safe.
things.
They're in a crib. They're on
They're
their
just
back.
crying
They're not
for
surrounded
no
by like
reason.
the fluffies and
Go meditate. I wholeheartedly believe in meditation. I meditate 3 times a week for 10 minutes.
yeah. See, you can do it. With
Don't
the
even.
the postpartum
Don't even.
depression, I would say honestly, I've only seen it. Okay, so circle back. What we tell patients is it is very normal to feel out of sorts, feel tearful, feel irritable, feel moody, all the things. That can be very normal for about 2 weeks. We tell them all the things that we just talked about: the sleep, taking breaks, getting help, take naps, all those things, nutrition. It's not normal, or usually not normal, if it starts progressively getting worse instead of better, or it's been about 2+ weeks and you're still feeling that way. Then that's when we say, just talk to your doctor. You're not abnormal. You're not crazy.
It's
Something
okay to
may,
say you're
right.
not okay. Like
Well, I think that has a lot of acceptance that needs to be said within yourself. You need to know that you're not okay, and it's okay
really
to ask
hard.
for help, even if
I
it's
think
from a friend.
the stigma, I think, is getting better. I can remember
Yes.
working OB, 16 years ago, and it was kind of this like stigma of, oh my gosh. And now I think people talk about it more openly.
Well, I think people are
and more aware of it.
well, they're scared to talk about it because that stigma.
I had one experience.
People are gonna look down on you.
With a gal. She was not a patient, so I just want to be like very clear on that. This was probably the first time that I had ever truly been like, oh my gosh, this is like postpartum borderline psychosis.
Okay, what's the difference between depression
So
and
like
psychosis?
depression, you're just a little out of sorts. You're moody or tearful, those things. Psychosis is now when you are to the point where you potentially could hurt yourself or the baby, or you are having really intrusive thoughts about, death or dying, or like when you're
Essentially
talking
killing your
about
baby.
the resentment.
Yeah.
And this gal never talked about wanting to hurt her baby, but she was definitely like having these really significant intrusive thoughts, and she was not only tearful but like super anxious, bawling, you know, her husband, she was really worried about him going back to work. Like, it really disrupted their life. And she was aware enough to know that this isn't normal, but she couldn't control it. And she was doing all the things. She was really trying. And I remember I knew her very closely, so I knew what her baseline was like. This was also not her first baby. So she, you know, and I had seen how she had acted after her other babies. And it was concerning because I was like, this is not her.
So did she act that way with her other children
No.
prior to that?
No,
So
like
just
she
this
would
one.
get a little tearful. I would say like, quote, normal post-baby blues. But this was so different. And
So do you think it might have had a play in that, like having
you know,
children
the
prior
added
to that?
stress and but I do think it definitely was more hormonal, and just, you know, every baby's different, and long story short, she came out of it. I think she was put on an antidepressant short term. I think she had some short term you know, anti-anxiety meds. Counseling, you know, really talking to someone routinely helped her. And I think just having support of someone to listen and not telling her that she's crazy or overreacting. But yeah, I really felt bad for it. And she's probably the only one in all the years that I can truly say, like, oh my gosh, I've
You were
never,
a little worried.
you read about it and you see about it on TV. Now, she wasn't quite to that extreme,
Yeah.
but it gave me an insight of like how that really could have been bad. You know, some of the things that she would share of her thoughts. And I was like, wow. And, but she could recognize that. She would even say, I know that this is not normal, but it keeps coming and I can't stop those thoughts. Like, I can't sleep because of X, Y, and Z.
So
And-
do you think it could have been like from during the pregnancy, like taking the prenatal vitamins?
I mean, you hear about that where, you know, like we have been talking about, for example, like folic acid. Like, there are studies out there. You need folic acid, you know, your vitamin B's, all your different vitamin B's, but it does help prevent, or it helps support brain and spinal function in the baby. So there, you know, you are supposed to take folic acid. You can have neural tube defects if you don't take enough. However, if you take too much, you can also have issues too. So I think there's probably just, yeah, there's so much out there between like, take this supplement, and take this vitamin, and like, at what point are we just taking too much,
was
and
gonna
that
say.
can be just as bad.
Yeah.
Because so before we went on, we kind of touched on that a little bit, like, about like, the folic acid and like the prenatals and stuff. We need actual like podcast chairs.
Oh no, I've been having issues with my knee like for 2 weeks.
And it was, yes, we talked a little bit about like the prenatal and like the folic acid and stuff, and that's kind of what kicked off this topic and this conversation to begin with. Was Nelson came across something talking about like to stop taking prenatals and stuff like that. One, like if you're pregnant, definitely take like a good quality, I would say, prenatal for sure. Cause like you said, like you need those vitamins and those nutrients for proper and healthy like baby function and baby development and like all these things. Like, you need that. Obviously, like, I'm kind of like a borderline hippie freak. Like, I prefer like more of like a natural organic one. Sometimes those can be a little bit more expensive. They have like the cleaner ingredients, stuff like that. I would prefer that. But if you can't afford that or can't get it, like, at least have something. Like, even if you're going to Walmart and grabbing something, like, definitely have a prenatal.
Right, and really focusing on your diet too.
Yeah, you can get a lot of that from
You can.
food. Yeah.
But
Eggs.
Right, eggs. But I think, you know, majority of the population is probably not going to be able to get the added amounts through food. I mean, that's
Right.
just reality.
And that's just the society that we live in today. So it's like, yes, like you need to have that. But kind of what we talked about a little bit. So when I was not pregnant, I was taking a prenatal like all the time, just as like my general like basic daily vitamin, just because like, oh, like hair, skin, all that, you know, growth, all that stuff. And I think my husband came across probably similar to the same article that Nelson, you did, talking about like if you have too much, it can start to, like the folic acid and stuff, it can start to like cause some like issues and mood stuff or whatever. And I don't know if it was more of a placebo effect or what, but I feel like when I had that and did some of my own research and dove into it a little bit, and I stopped taking like a prenatal and I just switched to like a daily like a normal like vitamin. Which I guess I don't even take like a multivitamin. I have specific vitamins that I know I want and that I am, whatever, deficient or feel like I benefit from. So I just take those separately together. Like I just make my own multi essentially. But anyway, I do notice like when I stop taking the prenatal outside of being pregnant, that I did notice an improvement in some of the stuff, and one of them was like really bad, like mood swings and just moody and stuff like that. Like I said, when I stopped taking the daily prenatal, not pregnant, I did notice a little bit of an improvement in that. So
well, for the most part, so taking a prenatal definitely has added, usually added B vitamins, usually added folate, added iron. Some of those that your body requires additional forms of. However, for the most part, when you are not pregnant, again, our bodies are so smart. For the most part, your body will just, if it's not using the added vitamins that are in the multivitamin, you're just going to excrete it through the kidneys or, just excrete it. That's on most. However, not everybody's the same. So we can't say that about everybody. There are people that can get toxic amounts of supplements. And then like what we talked a little bit about earlier is that some people will actually have this variant, like a genetic variant, where they can't break down folate into the active form. And so, and the gene MTHFR, it's not very common.
How do you remember?
I remember it, motherfucker. But, really just general term, it's just a gene variant where someone can't break down the folate into the active form. And so what they may require instead is methylated B vitamins. And the only thing that means is methylated B vitamins means that it's already in the active form. So they're already utilizing the B vitamins in the active form instead of not being able to break down the folate and being able to utilize B vitamins. And, that's just a very genetic term. It's not very common, but if somebody were experiencing just some side effects of like, like just being out of sorts, like what you were talking about, mood, if you just feel different, like let's say you felt fine and all of a sudden, always look at like what you changed. Like, did I change something? Yes, I'm taking this vitamin and now I feel like this. Well, then stop taking it
and see what happens.
And then maybe try something else.
Yeah.
So I think any vitamin we can end up taking too much or too little.
Just any supplement in general, definitely.
Right. Yeah. And folate, when you look up like what are symptoms, what can happen if you don't have enough folate, it's almost the same exact things of what can happen if you have too much. Like
awesome,
literally,
that's wonderful.
right. But baseline, I would definitely encourage, first of all, like talk to your doctor. Like, do not stop or take or start anything without talking to your doctor, especially when you're pregnant.
Especially, yeah.
But pretty across the board in most studies, you need at least a milligram of folic acid, which is also 1,000 micrograms. So, however you want to remember it, you pretty much can find support on that. That you need that amount to support healthy pregnancy, to prevent neural tube defects and brain deficits.
Yeah, which is pretty big deal. So
yeah, So I think you would have to like really weigh your pros and cons.
Yeah.
If you are really eating a lot of green leafy vegetables and all the veggies and the legumes or beans, those that are vegan, they might actually get more of those, and so they might not choose to have an added supplement. But most pregnant women that we tell them you need to be taking extra folate.
Yeah, have something. But yeah, I guess I did when I was pregnant, but yeah, it was just outside of that I kind of...
Yeah, just take a basic multivitamin.
Yeah.
I've heard people say it before, like, I take a prenatal, and they're not pregnant. And most of the time I don't correct people because it's not my business, but what I really want to say is you can take a prenatal all you want, but if you're not pregnant, your body's not going to absorb the additional. Yeah. It's going to get rid of what it doesn't need.
So that's like I said, I stopped and I did, like I said, whether it was placebo or not, maybe a little bit of both, but I did notice a little bit of like improvement of like kind of like some of the mood issues with it, but
and some of that could have been hormonal too.
Yeah,
you're not pregnant anymore, you're not having all these like crazy moods, so you just add everything together and
Yeah.
Feel good.
Either way, I just make my own multivitamin now. With all my different stuff I take every day.
I used to be so consistent with supplements and the vitamins. I have a hard time now. So I need to like be better.
I have to have a timer set every day at 12:15 to take mine.
I mean,
Otherwise
I have
won't
those
take 'em.
like pill bottle, you know, like what elderly people have.
Same. Yep.
You know,
I feel
that
like
you like fill your pill
Monday,
boxes.
Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday.
That definitely helps.
AM, PM.
Yeah, you know, and just like we remind patients to take their meds, you know, timer or your.
I stink.
Jeez.
Sorry, I keep like putting my armpits up like on my knees. Then I'm like, oh, I have not showered after my workout. I'm like, I don't smell awesome. So.
Well, it's a good thing
Anyway.
I can't smell anymore.
Yeah,
Or
no, you
can't.
So, last night I got my nasal ballooned.
Huh?
Because I had a deviated septum.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I have a lot of drainage going on. That's why I'm mouth breather over here because I really got to blow my nose.
Still Darth Vader.
Hey,
So,
fun fact, we're watching all of the Star Wars right now.
I can never get into Star Wars. It was never really my jam. I watched it because my grandma watched it.
Oh, we cannot be friends.
I like Star Wars. I will not watch it, but I would. There are other series that I would watch.
Star Wars makes me
before.
laugh. Because, I mean, you guys know my husband. He's like
Oh, yeah.
obsessed.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
obsessed.
Okay.
Vader,
Yeah.
Vader on one arm, Leia on the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only seen your husband in person once.
He,
And that was at the gym recently.
I don't know if you'll ever find a different or a more Star Wars fans. I'll tell you more after.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
It's
So
like I said,
it's fun.
I like it. I will not stray away from it. But like Star Wars or like Lord of the Rings, I'd rather watch Lord of the Rings. You know, like stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
I just
Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit? Which one's better?
Oh, I do have fun things to tell you.
I like the Lord of the Rings series, but like that was
Hobbit, hands down. Bilbo
So-
Baggins, young Bilbo Baggins.
Okay, who's the Hobbit? He was in like Lord of the Rings. He's also Rudy. Rudy the football player.
Have you never seen the movie Rudy?
Oh, Samwise Gamgee?
Yeah, so
Okay.
at this Comic-Con this
I
weekend,
don't know his actual name. His name is just Samwise.
yeah, the Hubs is going to meet him because he'll be at this Comic-Con, so he has
Really?
like his scheduled picture with him. Yeah.
Amazing. No
Yeah.
part of me is surprised by that.
Yeah, for real. I'll show you when he gets back with it.
I hate him already. Hell.
Yeah, so that's what
But-
happens at like Comic-Cons. They're like
I think one of my
usually, like-
dispatchers is real big. Her and her friends go to like all kinds of different Comic Cons.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole thing. Yeah.
I want a lightsaber. I really do.
Like people get like
Um,
dressed up like full board costume.
I would.
And
we have so much to talk about.
Chris and I will be going to Comic-Con at some point in time in our life,
you
and I am
realize-
getting dressed to the gills.
Okay, someday you come over to our house and look under our bed.
Do I
All
want
the
to? Do
lightsabers.
I really want
All
to?
The
Do I
lightsabers.
want
Oh my
to?
gosh, there's
Okay,
so
now-
much.
what's in her Duncan's
In
bed?
my mind,
lightsabers.
Under the bed and lightsabers. Are you sure they're lightsabers or are they?
Oh, they're lightsabers.
lightsabers.
Oh my gosh, you would love Comic Cons.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find some fun stories.
They have like a candy con. So
Candy-con.
Candy
Well,
con.
it's kind of like an
it's-
expo for like, I mean, expo for
Candy.
anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Like,
the owners of Fat
it's
and Weird
huge.
Cookie. I don't know if you.
I love them.
They were just like yes. So, her husband just went to a candy con. They just were at there because she was talking about how
I
she
have
wanted to.
such a sugar headache afterwards though, but it'd be so worth it.
I have it saved on my Instagram saved things. I'm going. So if we want to have a ladies trip and go get
Go to-
high on sugar, let's go.
I am
'Cause we
trying
definitely
to find
need
you
more
some
sugar
pictures
and
here
caffeine
for
in
when
our
we're
life.
done.
But anyway,
I was gonna say, squirreled big time. Yeah, I thought I had a question for the both of you regarding prenatals and pregnancy, but now it just went.
Have you? I mean, you don't have to get like super personal, but like,
I'll get
do
personal
you think
all day.
kids are off the table for you?
For me, yes. I've never wanted children.
Okay.
I've never looked at myself as being a mom. I've never had baby fever. I don't look at children and be like, I need you. You know, I think some kids are cute. You know, they're funny. I see these funny videos, but my favorite one is of this little boy that acts like a superhuman thing, has oven mitts on, has like a thing on. I share it to my story every time I see it. And he runs into the glass door and looks like a bug being splat. That stuff is funny, but do I want that in my household when I'm a treacherous clean freak? Absolutely not.
You're like, nope.
No, I'm gonna be a crazy cat lady, but Chris does want children.
Oh.
So that's the hard part. He wants the little semen demons, and I'm over here, like, I'm the one that has to carry it. You don't. I'm the one that has to birth it. You don't.
Okay,
like,
would you guys ever consider adoption?
No. Because Chris wants his own bloodline, because he's the last Nelson in his family.
That's understandable.
That is understandable.
And he said, well, either the name's going to die with me, or we're going to continue to go. I'm like, your name's going to die with you. So. And he knew that going into this marriage.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah, he knew it. Right
like
from the start.
I've seen you guys with like my girls and stuff before. I definitely think like if it were to ever happen or you guys ever had it like on the table, I think you would be
you
so
guys
much,
would be awesome.
You would be so much better than you think you would. Like just because like you
I'm
said,
not saying I wouldn't be a good mom.
Yeah.
I wouldn't plan for it. Like, it would be a whoops. Like, I don't plan to be on birth control for the rest of my life. You know, I was going to get off of it last year because I'm on the Mirena. And I thought my Mirena was for 5 years, but the one that I'm on is 8. So I got 3 years left. So I'm like, okay, keep it in, you know? That's 3 years of unprotected sex. Woo! I mean, if I tell people, I'm not going to plan for it. But if it happens, it happens, and I'm not gonna abort it. I'm not gonna give it up. You know. Yeah. Reap what you sow. I know my husband goes inside of me.
So
it will probably happen. But do I want the child? No, I don't want a child. But if it happens, I'll be a mom.
I can guarantee that your heart would open right up.
I don't know about that one.
You'd be...
Girl, I don't think you understand my feelings towards children.
I was kind of like that too, though. Like, I was always kind of like on the fence. Like, I wasn't sure. And like, it does, like, it changes your relationship and all that stuff, obviously. But at the same time, like, we're by no means the type where, like, we stop doing anything. We don't do anything because we have kids. Like, no, like, our kids just come with us and they do stuff.
You guys do a really good job of
they're just
including.
They're just part. They're just part of it.
Well, and I think that we did touch on this a little bit on one of our episodes, but your life doesn't have to stop just because you have children.
It just has to
change
a little bit.
Yeah, it's monkey see, monkey do. Like we had talked about your girls going to the gym with you. You know, you're setting them up for success because they're doing exactly what it is that you're doing, you know? You want to set that example. And when they have children of their own, they're going to do the exact same thing you did with them, you know? Include your children. Don't have children and pawn them off on grandma and grandpa every flipping weekend just because you guys need a break from the children. You know, you include them on the weekends. Maybe here and there you pawn them off on grandma and grandpa. Yeah,
and especially because like ours are so little right now, there are times that we do have like a grandparent or someone step in to help us or watch them because like it's not like we don't want to bring them. They're literally just not big enough to do whatever we're doing.
Well, and you guys are doing
fine, but you know, and for the people that they do decide that where they're like, hey, you know what, our own personal stuff is now on pause and we're all in everything 110% the kids and it's all about them. That's really fine too. That's just not what we chose to do and not how we did our lifestyle. Like I said, like we go to motocross races, their girls come with us. We go to hockey games, their girls come with us.
Well,
you know,
and
like they just
enjoy
part
it
of
too. You know, and your kids are only young ones. Why not include them in all the things that you're doing? They don't
know anything different because they've always just gone with us. They've always just been a part of whatever we're doing. So it's they don't know any different. So it's not. Yeah, it makes things a little bit more challenging sometimes, but it's not like impossible. Like it's not, you know, it's not like they don't know how to behave or do stuff. Because again,
I was gonna say temper tantrums only last so long.
Yeah, and again, like that's all they've ever known. So
and then you
they
get
just
assholes like me who look at mom and dad and like, shut your kids up.
Well, and when your kids grow up, it is really a cool transition. Like they become little adults and kind of like little sidekicks.
Little big semen demons.
But no, anyway, yeah, not as we sit here and pressure you into having kids. But anyway,
Oh, you guys aren't the worst.
and,
That's
you know,
another thing.
yeah.
There's
But it's
a plan.
everyone's choice, and that, it's fine. It is what it is, and if it happens, it happens. It doesn't. And
Yeah.
like you guys said, right now it's not on the table, but we said however many years and you're done. If it does go on the table, it is what it is. And like we said, like you'd be fine. Like you're great with bi girls. Like we've left them. We've left them alone with you.
I'm not gonna plan for it.
Yeah,
But-
and that's okay. The
Yeah,
universe has a plan for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. I might not be a huge believer in God, but I believe in the universe.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying too, like before Jared, like kids were kind of like I was like, maybe not. And then just with him, like he definitely did. And it became more of an option, and I was definitely still like just nervous and hesitant, and I don't know.
I think it's easier for the guy to say yes or no as opposed to the woman because they're not the
I
ones
agree.
having to
I
carry it.
Yeah.
We have to go through all the hormone changes, the body changes, the body
All the
dysmorphia,
things. Yeah.
the emotions, and the child literally taking away all of your food, all of your vitamins, so you have to supplement that, and just everything that entails on being a mother. The guy doesn't have to go through that. They just have to go through the woman being a raging dickhead.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, so I think that's kind of a nice little, just postpartum baby.
Yeah.
Star Wars, Lord of the Rings.
Random. I think next episode we should do we should have some titty talk and talk about like
Oh girl, I'm all about talking
enhancements
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hit some of that. We were talking a lot of like heavy hitters and hormones and stuff like that. So like a nice little as
Yeah, we could
Nelson's
have-
clutching her.
We could have like
so
an aesthetic talk,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an obsession with breast implants. I am constantly groping myself. So I am all about titty talk.
Yeah. I think it'll be a good one for next week. So
So you could be the interviewer this time, and
Yeah.
Ashley and I can
Well, I
share
have-
our experiences, and we can
yeah, 'cause
maybe bring you to the dark side.
No, I'm polar opposite. Like if I could have just a solid itty bitty A cup, dude, I'd be so freaking happy.
Oh, I would have traded you then. You could have had my itty bitty titty
I want
committee, and
flats. Oh well.
no.
Anyway, okay, so
Anyway,
thank you guys for coming along on this wild ride of an episode. But
kind of
Oh,
longer. How
yeah.
long was it? Jeez.
I don't even know. I won't know
Almost
until
2
I'm
hours.
done. Maybe, hopefully not. At least I'll be.
I don't think
Upload.
so.
No,
No?
maybe
No.
around an hour.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I hope you guys learned some stuff, got some advice, or at the bare minimum know that you weren't alone in feeling
Yeah,
something
definitely.
that we hit on. So
And it's okay to not want children.
yes, and it's okay to not be okay when you do have children.
Yes.
But yeah, anyway, as always, well, first of all, these are just our opinions. Do our little disclaimer quick. These are just our opinions,
Yeah.
our viewpoints, personal experience. Don't change anything, do anything without seeking medical advice. As always, we preach that a lot, especially with stuff like this, because your baby's health and life is super important if that's the path you're on right now. So
Yeah, try not to hurt your baby.
yeah, let's not
Don't
do
do
that.
that.
Don't do that. But anyway, yeah, tune in, follow along, all that fun stuff. Subscribe, email us, direct message us, whatever, questions, comments, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you guys for the next one.
Bye.
See ya.